Everyone believed Ty Borden was gone forever. His story ended in heartbreak. But in the season 19 premiere, something impossible happened. Ty appeared again. Amy turned, and there he was, standing, breathing, looking at her with that familiar calm in his eyes. The entire Heartland fandom froze. Was it real? A dream? A ghost? No one was ready for the moment Ty stepped back into the world he had left behind. But before we understand how, we must first remember how we lost him. Ty Borden was the heart of Heartland for many seasons. He grew from a troubled teen into a strong, kind man. He became a loving husband to Amy and a devoted father to their daughter, Lindy. Fans followed his journey through every fight, every rescue, every quiet moment on the ranch. So when season 14 began with Ty's sudden death, it felt like the ground had been ripped out from under everyone. It all started at the end of season 13. Ty and Amy were caught in the crossfire during a rescue mission. Both were shot. At first, things seemed stable. Ty recovered quickly and returned home. But what no one knew, not even Ty, was that a piece of the bullet had traveled into his body and caused a blood clot. Without warning, in the middle of a beautiful day, Ty collapsed. He died right there, with Amy by his side holding his hand, tears falling from her face as their daughter played in the distance. It was fast. It was shocking. It was final. The grief that followed wasn't just Amy's, it was everyone's. Jack tried to stay strong for the family, but he struggled with the silence Ty left behind. Lou couldn't believe it. Her sister's husband, the man who had become a brother to her, was gone. Tim, who had come to see Ty as a second son, found himself lashing out, unsure how to deal with the loss, and Lindy, so small, didn't yet understand why her daddy wasn't coming home anymore. The show took a bold turn after Ty's death. Instead of avoiding the pain, Heartland leaned into it. The entire season focused on how Amy dealt with losing the love of her life. We saw her try to hold herself together for Lindy. We saw her return to the barn, to the horses, to the things she and Ty had built together. But it wasn't the same. Every part of Heartland carried his shadow, his laughter, his advice, his quiet strength. For many fans, Ty's death felt personal. Wardle, the actor who played Ty, had chosen to leave the show to explore new, creative paths and personal growth. The writers and producers respected his decision and wanted to give the character an ending that honored the journey. They didn't want a cheap exit or a quiet goodbye. They gave Ty a final moment that felt real, painful, sudden, and unforgettable. Social media exploded after the episode aired. Viewers across the world expressed their heartbreak. Some were angry, others were just sad. Many didn't know if they could keep watching the show without him. Petitions were made, fan videos were posted with tearful goodbyes. For many, Ty wasn't just a character. He was part of their lives. But Heartland didn't collapse. Instead, it began to rebuild. The show shifted its focus to healing. Amy started therapy. She leaned more on her family. She found ways to keep Ty's memory alive without staying trapped in the past. The writers allowed time to pass, and through that time, Amy began to slowly rediscover joy, not by forgetting Ty, but by learning how to carry him with her as she moved forward. Still, the loss left a scar on the story. Even in the later seasons, fans missed Ty's voice. His chair at the dinner table stayed empty. His presence was felt even when he wasn't seen. So when the season 19 premiere arrived, no one expected what would come next. Ty had been gone for years. His story had ended, or so we thought. It began with silence, just Amy, standing alone in the barn, brushing the mane of a nervous horse. The air was still, the light soft and golden like the world was holding its breath. Then, footsteps, slow, steady, familiar. Amy turned around, her hands freezing mid-motion. Her eyes widened. The brush slipped from her fingers. And there, he was, Ty Borden. No warning, no music cue, no special effects. Just Ty, looking exactly as he did the last time we saw him. His eyes met hers, and for a second, Neither of them spoke. Time stopped. Amy's lips parted. Her breath caught in her throat. She took a small step forward but said nothing. Her whole body shook, as if trying to decide whether to run into his arms or collapse in disbelief. That single moment set the internet on fire. Within minutes of the premiere airing, fans across the world were posting clips, screenshots, and shocked reactions. Ty's face on screen again was like seeing a ghost. Too real to ignore, too impossible to believe. Was this a twist ending? A miracle? Or just a cruel dream? Speculation spread like wildfire. Some believed Ty had somehow survived his death. Maybe the doctors had made a mistake and he'd been in hiding trying to protect his family. Others thought it was a time jump, that the show had traveled to the past or to an alternate future. But the most common theory? That Ty wasn't really there, not physically. Clues were scattered across the scene, subtle and deliberate. Ty didn't speak. He didn't touch anything. The light around him was softer, almost glowing. Amy seemed frozen, as if her world had split in half. Some fans noticed that Ty's boots didn't make sound on the floor. Others caught how the horse behind Amy didn't even react to him. It was as if Ty wasn't part of the same space, as if he wasn't real. Later in the episode, Amy is seen alone again, standing exactly where Ty had appeared. She's holding the same brush unmoved from before. Her eyes are red. Her voice trembles as she whispers, "I saw you." But no one else had seen what she did. The writers crafted the moment with precision. They didn't confirm anything, not right away. Instead, they let the fans sit with the mystery. Was it a vision, a memory, a message from beyond? The answers weren't handed out. Instead, the audience was invited to feel it, to experience the shock and emotion the way Amy did. Sudden, unfiltered, and deeply personal. For longtime viewers, the scene was more than a plot twist. It was a reunion. Ty's face reminded everyone of everything he stood for: kindness, love, quiet strength. Seeing him again, even for a few seconds, opened old wounds and old joys at the same time. Amy's reaction mirrored the fans, part joy, part sorrow, part disbelief. This scene was not just about bringing back a character. It was about honoring the bond between Ty and Amy. A bond so deep, it didn't end with death. A bond strong, enough to break through time, memory, and maybe even the afterlife. Fans praised the scene as one of the most emotional moments in the show's history. Social media lit up with comments like, "I'm crying all over again," and "I didn't realize how much I missed him until I saw his face." The emotional impact was so strong that even people who had stopped watching after Ty's death came back just to witness this moment. But not everyone was convinced. Some believed the show was toying with emotions, bringing Ty back just for ratings. Others defended the move, saying it gave much-needed closure. One thing was certain: no. One was prepared for it. This wasn't just a scene, it was a storm. A quiet one, but powerful enough to shake the entire fandom. The shock of seeing Ty Borden again wasn't just a surprise. It was a mystery that demanded answers. Viewers flooded social media with theories, each one trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. But the truth? It was far more emotional than any fan theory. The showrunners didn't stay silent for long. In a carefully timed interview released a day after the episode aired, they finally addressed the scene. But instead of giving a simple answer, they offered something deeper, something more human than any twist or fantasy explanation. Ty Borden's return wasn't about changing the past. It was about healing the present. According to the creators, the moment Amy saw Ty again wasn't a miracle, and it wasn't magic. It wasn't science fiction or a twist where Ty had somehow faked his death. It was memory and grief colliding. Amy wasn't seeing a ghost. She was seeing the most powerful version of her own pain and love. The writers revealed that the scene was built around a real psychological experience known as a grief hallucination. People who lose someone they deeply love, especially suddenly, can sometimes see, hear, or even feel that person again in a moment of deep emotion. It's the brain's way of holding on. And in Amy's case, it was her heart's way of saying goodbye, or maybe just reminding her that Ty would always be a part of her. They chose not to use music in the scene for a reason. No dramatic cues. No warning. Because that's how these moments feel in real life, like a ripple through reality. 1 minute you're standing in the quiet, and the next, you're face to face with the person you lost. The showrunners said the idea came during discussions about Amy's arc in season 19. They wanted to give her a way to finally begin letting go, but in a way that felt true to her character. Amy had spent seasons being strong for everyone else. But grief doesn't disappear just because you keep moving. Sometimes it waits until you're alone, in silence, in the barn, with a brush in your hand. This vision of Ty was never meant to bring him back to the living world. It was never meant to undo his death. Instead, it was designed as a mirror of Amy's soul, a place where memory, love, and sorrow lived together. For a moment, she allowed herself to feel everything, without pushing it away. The writers explained that bringing Wardle back for this scene wasn't easy. The actor had stepped away from Heartland by choice, pursuing new creative paths. But when they presented the idea not as a resurrection but as an emotional gift, he agreed. He understood that this wasn't about Ty coming back. It was about helping Amy and the fans find peace. Graham filmed the scene in silence. He said no words. He simply looked, stood, felt. And that silence spoke louder than anything he could have said. It was raw, it was respectful, and it was real. The creative team also addressed why they didn't explain it in the episode itself. No clear dialogue, no narration, because grief doesn't come with subtitles. It doesn't always make sense. And neither does healing. They wanted viewers to experience the moment with Amy, confused, overwhelmed, shaken. They knew not everyone would understand. But that was the point. Healing isn't clean. It's messy. And Amy's journey wasn't about solving a puzzle. It was about facing what still lived in her heart. For longtime fans, this explanation was both a relief and a release. It allowed them to mourn again, but this time with understanding. It reminded them that love doesn't end at death. It changes. It echoes. And sometimes, it appears in front of you, just long enough to say, "You're not alone." This wasn't about undoing Ty's goodbye. It was about writing a new one. Ty's return wasn't meant to reopen old wounds. It was meant to close them gently. But now that he's appeared, even just for one powerful moment, the question on everyone's mind is what comes next. How does a single silent vision change the entire future of Heartland? For Amy, that brief encounter shattered the quiet wall she had built around her grief. In earlier seasons, she stayed strong for Lindy. She smiled, she worked, she lived. But she rarely felt. Ty's image in the barn wasn't just a memory. It was her heart waking up. It forced her to face what she hadn't dared to feel for a long time, the depth of her love and the weight of her loss. In the episodes that follow, we see a quieter, more reflective Amy. She stops pretending she's okay and starts letting people in. She talks to Jack about that moment in the barn, not asking him to believe, just asking him to listen. She reads old letters from Ty, finding strength in his words. For the first time, she begins to imagine a future that doesn't erase Ty, but includes his spirit, his influence as part of who she's becoming. And that's where the magic of Heartland truly lies. The show has never been about dramatic twists or sudden miracles. It's always been about people, real people facing life as it is. The writers have now opened a door for Amy's healing to feel complete. Not because she forgets Ty, but because she learns how to carry him with her in a new way. This vision also signals a turning point for the entire cast. Lou begins to notice a shift in Amy and realizes that she too has been holding on too tightly to the past. Jack, who's always tried to stay strong, shares a rare moment of vulnerability, telling Amy about the time he thought he saw Ty's shadow in the fields. Even Tim, rough around the edges, begins to soften, helping Amy with small tasks not because she needs help, but because he needs to help. And what about Lindy? The daughter who never really got to know her father now becomes a bridge between the past and the future. In one touching moment, she draws a picture of their family, not just her and her mom, but her mom, her, and her dad. When Amy asks how she knew what to draw, Lindy simply says, "Because you saw him too." These emotional threads are now shaping Season 19 storylines. Instead of moving on from Ty, the characters are learning to move with his memory. Heartland is no longer about forgetting the pain, it's about growing through it. Some fans are still hoping for more. They wonder if Ty will appear again. Perhaps in another vision, a dream, a voice in the wind. The writers haven't confirmed anything, but they haven't ruled it out either. They've left the door open, not wide, but just enough for love to echo through. What's certain is that Ty's presence, even in silence, has changed the show's tone. The premiere reminds viewers why they fell in love with Heartland in the first place. It's not just a ranch or a family drama. It's a story about the people we lose and how we never truly lose them if we carry their love forward. As Amy steps out of the barn and into the morning light in the final scene of the premiere, her face says everything. There's sadness, yes, but also peace, strength, a quiet knowing. Ty may be gone, but she's not alone, and neither are we. That's the heart of Heartland. And now, with Season 19, it beats stronger than ever.